What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video, another relationship update. And this one we are going to be talking about a time in our relationship that's not too far ago that we literally were a hair away from breaking up. I'm going to go into detail about that. Now we're at the point where we're definitely going to get married. So a huge switch. We're going to talk about that. We're also going to be talking about our threesomes, our open kind of relationship, how that dynamic works. And then we're going to be talking about having a partner who has mental health struggles, specifically in Sammy's case, BPD.
Borderline personality disorder, if you don't know what that is. BPD.
So we're definitely going to be getting into, I guess, some very sensitive material here. Maybe some of it is a bit out of your range. So if this is not a video that you're interested in, just get out of here right now. But these kind of videos, I feel like, even though some people feel they are TMI, and it's like, why would you expose so much of your relationship, share so much that might be embarrassing or change people's perception of you? I feel like being transparent and being open about where we've struggled can help other people identify similar struggles in their relationships and hopefully just help you see yourself, your partner, and just everything in a different light. So that's why we're sharing. It's just so hopefully it can help.
Absolutely. I think a lot of people get comfortable and they get complacent in the relationship, and we're going to talk a little bit about that today, but I just think that this may be beneficial for you to take kind of an outside look perspective on our relationship and just what we've gone through. So hopefully it can help. Dun, 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 dun. This is Kat. She's beautiful. This is my Nina's cat, and we love her very, very much.
Pause for this ball sack kitty intermission.
Yeah,
wait, get the ASMR. All right, so I feel like, I guess the first place to start would be, when is this time that we were so close to breaking up? I feel from the outside perspective, it seems like we never really have problems. People are like, oh, you guys are always in good moods and stuff. And that's why I really wanted to open up and share. So this specific situation was maybe 2 years ago?
Well, I believe it started in 2018 specifically, but it came to a head about 2 years ago. Yeah.
Right. And so there was this scene that I remember very clearly. I was driving to the gym. I was in my car, and we had been texting, and it just went down that text line where I guess I wasn't really realizing that I was kind of going there, but then I kind of went there. And I just said, I think, I just don't know if I can continue doing this. I don't know if I if I can stick this out. I think maybe it would be best if we split up, take time apart, all that kind of stuff. And then you called me.
Yes.
We had some deep conversations about stuff that I wasn't confronting.
About stuff that he was not communicating with me about. So I didn't know that he was having problems with certain things, and I was blindsided because I felt like if you were having these problems, you should have communicated with me these things so I could change it or fix it, or we could confront it. So that was really difficult. And
so that's something that I hope is a takeaway, is that you need to communicate more when those problems are starting, because as you let them wear on, you're like, it's not a big deal. I don't feel like dealing with conflict. I'd rather just have a good night tonight. You do that 100 times, 200 times, but now it's a year later. Now that little problem has festered into a large problem. And now you're like, maybe it would just be easier if I was single, because then that problem just doesn't exist, right? And so some of the problems that we were dealing with, this is where we just get real open and transparent with you. I was having a hard time with where Sammy was with her mental health and how she was dealing with it. She was just like going through a really depressive phase where it was hard for her to really like show up. It was hard for her to, I guess, set goals and like do things to progress and be productive towards those goals. And so I feel like she was complaining about like things sucked and life sucks and like this is not fun and stuff. But then I wasn't seeing her show up to actually try to change those things. And so that's just one of the things. But what has changed since then is that Sammy has...
So I don't know if we've talked about it on your channel yet, but I have been completely off my mental health medications for about almost 6 months now. And I was having a lot of side effects and just really struggling with that. And basically one of the mood stabilizers I was on was causing me to not be able basically to communicate properly. I couldn't articulate what I wanted to say. Brian calls it autopilot. I was on autopilot. I couldn't basically say words. Like, it was very, very difficult for me to open up and communicate. I felt like I had this fog.
It's just hard to be present.
Right. I had this fog over my face, and I would try to communicate, but it just wouldn't come out properly. And I realized that it was my medication, and that basically my medication was just making me worse instead of making me better. And so I decided, with the help of my psychiatrist, always, if you're going to get off medication, talk to your doctor. So I got the support from my psychiatrist, and I've been off my medication since the end of May. And ever since then, I have been, it's like a completely different person. Yeah,
Crazy.
It's like, so many people notice the changes that I have made, and not only getting off my medications, but setting goals and like going to the gym, for example, and just, I don't know, it's just been a lot of growing that I had to do, and I had to realize that I wasn't putting myself first. And yeah, so yeah.
Well, okay, and I want to just put a disclaimer out here that we're not encouraging people to not take meds or anything like that. Dude, for some people, you absolutely need meds.
Right.
And I don't think that because you're on meds, you can't be present. You can't show up. You can't do all the things that you need to do to be the right person for yourself as well as in your relationship. What I think changed, though, is just that during that period, because you were on the meds, it created like this, like the opposite of an incubation space for you.
Right.
It made it extra easy for you to be discouraged. It made it extra easy to not follow your goals, not show up, be on autopilot, all that kind of stuff. And so for me, in my mind, I hadn't really told her about this, but the van life thing was kind of like, I don't want to say a test because it sounds terrible, but I kind of wanted to see how Sammy would do in a situation where there's a lot of discomfort, where there's a lot of challenges that are coming each day. Things are not easy. It's not the same routine. You have to be spontaneous. You have to, just like see what happens and run with it. Whereas I feel like a lot of people, everybody, would just shut down and be like, I'm over this. Like, let's just stop this. I want to go home. And if you guys know me, you've been following for a long time, you know I'm very spontaneous. I love adventures. I push into discomfort. It's something I really enjoy. And something I was thinking about, if I want to marry this girl, it would be really hard for me to know that she couldn't go into those adventures with me. She couldn't push into those weird situations where everything's going to be up in the air. And because Sam really, really likes being around me, if she couldn't be in those situations, it would also cause me not to be able to do them as much because she wouldn't want me gone for 6 months traveling Europe or something like that. And so this was really like, I guess, a test to see what would happen.
Did I pass?
Yeah, you passed with flying colors. It's crazy. I think it would take maybe a 2 or 3 hour long conversation to really go into each detail of what has changed. But the van life, that's one thing that really changed in how I was seeing how we were going to work in our dynamics moving forward. But there was a lot of other things too. One of the things that really was important to me is just to see you wanting to do things to improve your situation. It's not necessarily that I was comparing you to somebody else, like for example, like Jim. I think a lot of mental health girls that follow you will think that when you're suggesting they need to work out, that they need to look like insert female influencer here who's like an IFBB pro. That's not what it's about. The gym isn't actually really about looking perfect. It's about doing something to improve your situation, because your mood will improve, the way your body image and the way you look at yourself improves, your energy levels improve, which is really, really a big thing for girls who have mental health issues. They feel really lethargic all the time. And then because of that, your mental clarity improves and just your drive towards everything else. So for me, seeing that you were willing to go to the gym even on days where you were like, I feel like crap, but you realized every time I've been going to the gym so far, it's improved how I'm feeling. So even when I feel like crap, I'm just going to drink this water, I'm going to drag my butt into the gym, and I'm going to force it. And then every single time afterwards you come out and you're feeling awesome. And so that was something that I was like, okay, cool. I don't care how low you ever get, however low we get, as long as you're willing to do the work to get back out of the hole. For me, that was really big, and to see it was a big change for me.
I don't necessarily know why I was so resistant to, going to the gym. I think it was just, I thought of it as a lot of effort. And like, if you have mental health problems, like effort, like you have to make the effort. And I think realizing that is so important and like vital, like making the effort in everything that you do, not only like going to the gym, but like your intentions with how you eat and like drink water and your vitamins and, your friendships, your relationships, like putting forth the effort to be better is so important. And I think like I've been preaching that a lot lately, but I just think you have to put yourself first in order for your other relationships to grow and thrive. Because if you're not taking care of yourself, it's really going to affect that.
And that brings me to maybe one of the last points I want to talk about, just with how my perception changed during this van trip, is I think also, your self-awareness and your ability to take responsibility in multiple different ways has changed drastically. Yeah, so I feel like this is something that both partners need to do. When you realize that there's a problem with yourself, you take responsibility for it, you move forward with it. But especially in a relationship, something that's really changed too is because you are now changing the way that you're perceiving yourself. You're seeing yourself, instead of down talking yourself, you're seeing yourself as having potential, and you're seeing yourself as an awesome person who has some bad days. And so hearing the words change about how you're addressing yourself, that is a really big thing for me too, because I'm like, okay, yeah, she sees what I see, the potential is there. But then having that self-awareness where if we have like an issue pop up, this is something that you'll do often, and you can tell this, but you'll after the situation is over, you'll say, oh shoot, I didn't realize, I'm sorry the way I was treating you. Right. And so you talk about this.
Yeah. So basically what I've been trying to implement, and this goes for anyone, not just anyone with mental health issues or borderline personality disorder, a lot of times with BPD, you go from 0 to 100 really quickly, and your mood fluctuates all day long like crazy. So I could get triggered by something or overstimulated and just like snap, and it happens, and I'm lucky that Brian is accepting of that, and like, because I take responsibility, if it's a few minutes later, if it's an hour later, whatever, I always say, I'm sorry for what just happened, like whatever it was, like I'm sorry I snapped at you at this, and then I explain why I did, because I want him to understand what I was feeling in that moment. So whether it be I was too hot and like I couldn't concentrate, I was just getting overstimulated. For me, that happens quite frequently, and just like little things, and it'll frustrate me and I'll snap. And
like, for example, I'm a very much so morning person, and in the van, it's about 90 degrees when you wake up in the morning.
Right.
And so I'm all zoozy zazzy, and I'm like, let's go. And I'm tickling her and grabbing her and stuff.
Yeah.
And then she needs some time to like turn the systems on.
Right.
And so then sometimes she'll snap at me.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Right.
But then I'm like, stop being grumpy.
Yeah.
Stop being grumpy. Stop being mean to me.
Yeah.
It's not something that like kills me. I'm not like, oh, this sucks. But I'm just like, stop being grumpy.
Yeah. Well, and if it happens frequently and you're not taking responsibility and taking it, saying I'm sorry, like it's going to wear on that person, and they're going to be like, well, like I don't want to give you attention. I don't want to do that. I don't want to, you know what I mean? So it's like you have to take responsibility for that. And like I've done a few videos on this recently, just explaining like if you need help with that, you can reach out to me and we can talk about like how to go about that. But just being aware and being like, look, I'm sorry, I snapped, I split, whatever it was, and just it helps so much. And then he's like, oh, okay, and he knows, like, and just explaining like I was upset about this or whatever it is, and communicating that with him, it's just been a lot easier to get through. So
yeah, that clarity, the communication is really, really important. And it's not like this big apology. It's not like you did some massive problem. You could just ignore it. It'd be fine.
Right.
But from the other person's perspective, sometimes, you're doing stuff and you're like, oh, I think this is fun. I'm trying to have a good morning with you. I'm joking around with you. But then, boom, 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 boom. And after a while, you're like, okay, now I'm going to start shutting down.
Right.
Now I'm not going to show up how I naturally show up.
Exactly.
Because I don't want to deal with that.
Right.
And it's such a small thing. But then just hearing, hey, I realized that I snapped on you. I'm sorry.
Right.
That taking responsibility, that's all. It doesn't matter that you did. It's just, thank you for realizing it. And that also has crossed over to me. Now I'm realizing that I can do the same thing. And I feel like that's just a healthy tool that we've started implementing recently that feels really good.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, I'll just, like yesterday, I was like, hey, I was kind of in a bad mood when I dropped you off. Sorry about that.
Yeah. Yeah. And
could have just ignored it, but it didn't.
Exactly. And that just means so much for the other person to take initiative without you having to be like, hey, you were kind of mean to me earlier and it made me feel icky. Like, can we address this? And it's just like, you don't have to do that. You can just address it within that few minutes or an hour, whatever it is, and just be like, yo, I'm sorry. Like, I messed up. I apologize. And then I'm taking responsibility for that. And then it's not like this big thing that just keeps adding and adding and adding up. Like, it's just a lot easier to deal with it then than to wait.
And sometimes that doesn't come naturally. So this is going to lead into something else, but like communication sometimes is really hard. Expressing your feelings. If you didn't grow up expressing your feelings, you didn't have a touchy-feely family that's here's how I'm feeling, I want to address it right now, then it's a very unnatural thing. And so sometimes it is the next day or maybe like a couple days later before you can confront it, but just confronting it is an important thing.
Yeah.
So now all these changes adding up have really just given me a lot of clarity, which I was lacking before, about where I wanted to take our relationship, and that is huge for me. So I'm very positive about staying with Sammy for my whole life, getting married. It's all just coming down to plans now, but that clarity has opened up a lot of just comfort in me and just excitement, because being a masculine energy person, having clarity in a lot of areas of my life has always been natural to me. And this area of like, what am I going to do with our relationship has not been clear for a long time. And it's been very difficult for me, and it has worn on me. And I don't know if you've noticed, but I feel completely different the way that I'm showing up. And you guys are probably seeing Sammy, like, I'm sure the comment's going to be like, yeah, I can tell Sammy's a hold, because on her channel, that's what people are saying. In real life, people are saying that, and it's really cool to see that. Okay, now we don't actually have that much time to go over this, so we'll just go through it real quick. But I know a lot of you guys want us to talk about, kind of our interesting dynamic in a relationship, where we talk about threesomes and stuff like that. During the van life, that is one thing that we engaged in, and a lot of people wanted to get kind of an update. How did it go? How did it go?
It went so good. I think a lot of people are always like, oh, it's going to ruin your relationship. Like, it's so bad. Like, you shouldn't do this. And I think it's not for everybody. I think monogamy, like growing up and seeing monogamy, it was like, that's how it's supposed to be. So like exploring something different has been really good for us in our relationship. And like I said, it's not for everybody. We don't expect you guys to be like, if you're not into it, to be into it. And like, I know it's kind of like a taboo thing, but for us, it was really great for our relationship, and we connected on such a deeper level than what we already had. And like, we just have a lot of trust for each other and acceptance and communication, and that really shined through when we participated in the act. But it was just so great to know, and trust that it was all behind good intentions, and there was nothing, malicious or anything like that. Not like I was thinking it was going to be that way, but like it just worked out very nicely, and it was great. Yeah.
I think you articulated it quite nicely there. But yeah, when people hear about it, oftentimes they'll warn you and say, oh, this is going to be so bad for you. And I would agree that a lot of people, it would actually cause a wedge in their relationship.
Right.
And what I think it does is highlight your communications and your intentions.
Yes.
And so if there are problems and you aren't communicating, it's going to be bad.
Absolutely.
But I think in the rare case where you guys are really, really connected and you are communicating openly, your intentions are in the right place, and you're communicating those intentions, I think that it can actually show you the strength that you have and the trust that you have and strengthen it, which is exactly what she was just saying. And so without going into too much detail, which maybe we'll do in another video or podcast about the actual situation itself, we came out of it super invigorated, really tight. It just reaffirmed. It was one of those things, again, that I was saying that in the beginning I was just looking forward to seeing how it would go and how the dynamic was going to change after it. And I just realized, man, like, this is even another sign that like, this is the perfect woman for me. This is something that we can do, and we can do because we have such unique, I would say, just communication and trust in ourselves that I don't see often in other relationships. And so it just really highlighted that for me, and that was beautiful. It was really, really amazing.
Yeah, it was such a beautiful experience for both of us, and it was great.
Yeah,
was awesome.
And for her, which was awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, and that brings us to, how do you have a good relationship with a BPD partner? Because a lot of times there's a stigma that having a mental health partner is going to be harder and not going to be worth your while. You might as well just leave them for someone who's more normal, and it's going to be better.
Hey!
And I would be lying if I didn't say that that was some of the things that were coming up in my brain when I was having this situation where I was thinking maybe I should just be single and find someone who's easier. So we have a couple suggestions that can really help, and this will help with any relationship, not just if you have a partner who has mental health or BPD. But what I realized through all of this is that the BPD that Sammy has causes her to love harder, be hurt harder, be angry more intensely. All of those are just in my opinion, almost like personality traits. And to me, that's not something that you should dismiss, but I didn't realize that. And for me, I don't think a normal partner could fulfill me because I'm not normal. I'm intense too. Like, I require a lot of love. I require a lot of attention. I do things to my 110%. I have an addictive personality, and it works extremely well for us. And so some of these things I'm about to tell you highlighted that again, that I just really don't think a normal partner person would fulfill me. Okay, so the first thing that I think is so important, other than communication, which you've heard me say a million times, you need to have that open communication, but also you need to learn each other's love languages.
Oh my gosh. This is so vital, so important, not only in your romantic relationships, but like for relationships with like your parents and stuff. Like, it's really benefited me knowing even my mom's love languages. Like, since learning about, we already knew what our love languages were, but
everybody does,
right? But we read the book, we got everything into more detail to where we could really fine tune everything, and really recommend you read the 5 Love Languages book. I forget who it's by, but it's the book, and it really benefited us knowing how to love each other and one another. We tell everyone, if you haven't read that book, read it and make it a known thing in your relationship that you're striving to love your partner the way that they need to be loved. And it's just so important because I get loved differently than I love. You know what I mean? Like, I had to learn how to love Brian, even though my love language is quality time and gifts. His are not that. So I had to learn what his were, and it's really benefited me because I think even in the beginning of the relationship, I would like get him things like, and he was just like, oh, cool, thanks. But like, he's not a gift person. He doesn't enjoy getting gifts. He'd rather, you tell him how much you love him and how great he is, or like do acts of service and provide something for him, like clean our room or make him food, something like that. So just learning that and learning the difference of that has really, really benefited us. So I really recommend it.
And I think that's a problem with a lot of people's relationship, because even if you think you're in a good spot, a lot of times you are giving love the way that you your primary love language is, or how you were raised by your parents. And so you'll say, I'm putting 110% in. Like, I'm doing so much extra to make you feel loved. But if the other person, it really doesn't matter to them that much about, like she's saying, gifts. For me, you can give them 50 gifts, and for her, she'd feel very loved.
Yes.
For me, literally doesn't matter at all. Why haven't you done whatever my love language is?
Right.
Which, for me, my primary love language is acts of service. I think words of affirmation is number 2. And then the other ones are also important, but after.
Right.
For her, it's going to be
quality time and gifts.
Right. And so knowing that, when you feel like you want to give love to your partner, you can say, I'm going to do it through those love languages. So I really make sure that they're feeling love. You can also kind of do an audit on your relationship and say, how often have I been doing those things? And it's really important because sometimes you do the thing, the love language, right? And for you, it's not natural. It's not easy. Like, if you didn't grow up saying kind things to somebody, complimenting, that can be very difficult to do. So it almost feels forced. It almost feels painful. Or if acts of service is not something you've ever often done, cleaning the house or giving your partner a back rubs and massages, if you're tired and that seems like a lot of effort, in your brain you're going to say, but it's going to make my partner feel loved.
Exactly.
And so it's not about you enjoying the thing that you're doing. It's you're doing it to make them feel loved. And then because they know you're doing that, and it's not even like, something that's really hard for you, it makes you feel extra loved. It makes them feel extra loved.
We've been telling literally all of our friends to do this because it has benefited us so much, just knowing how to love one another. It's just so amazing. And like I said earlier, like with other relationships as well, it's not just for your romantic partner, but you find out, like my mom, for example, like figuring out her love languages so I could better love her better, So I really recommend it. Well, we really recommend it. It's been amazing. And yeah, and like he said, like just to briefly touch on, even if you don't feel like it, like doing it, I know. I accepted it.
It's not happening.
Even if you don't feel like it and you're tired and like whatever, like knowing that giving him a back rub is going to make him feel so nice. So you just do it. You suck it up and you do it. And it's like, just do it. Okay.
Yeah. And so we're running out of time because I have a coaching call in a couple minutes.
Yeah.
So I just want to touch on one last thing. Like I've been saying, communication is really key, but how do you do that, right? One really important thing that has helped us a lot, helped a lot of our friends out a lot, is schedule a time to sit down and talk. And I know that sounds sort of unnatural, right? It sounds like, oh, it's very transactional, it's very business, it'll just happen naturally. But if you don't schedule it, oftentimes you'll just never do it.
Right.
And so I recommend having a journal and just write down whenever something bothers you, whenever there's something that you feel you aren't receiving or you need to address. And yeah, sometimes you can't just do that in the middle of the day. You both got a bunch of stuff to do. Put it in a journal so you don't forget. And then when you have that time, set your situation, your context, your environment, your intentions right so that this is an open-hearted conversation where your heart is open to receiving things that might sound painful, might be feeling like criticisms, and vice versa. And make this, I guess, a safe space so that you can say, hey, look, I feel like I have not felt love from you. I feel like you have not been giving me attention. I feel like
whatever
XYZ.
Yeah, whatever it is, because a lot of times if you're not communicating with your partner what you need, they are not going to know. So how do you expect them to know what to do, or if you're having a problem with something, if you're not communicating it with them? And it's so important that you set aside that time, even if it is just to tell them that you love them. All of our friends, like, we all make it a priority to have check-ins with our relationships. Like, it's just something that is progressive, and it just shows that you're putting forth the effort in your relationship. And you could be like, okay, once a week, Friday nights or whatever, Sunday nights, we're gonna sit down for an hour and just talk and just have like a relationship audit. That's what we call it. And it's like just addressing how you're feeling, whether even that's good or bad. It doesn't have to be bad all the time, but just like saying like, oh, I really enjoyed how you did this week. Like, thank you so much. And like making sure you prioritize like how, like, great gratitude is going to be really important as well, because it's like if sometimes in the moment you're like, oh, I said thank you, but like later, if you're like, oh my gosh, I really appreciated how you did this, and like it really made me feel good, and I just feel so loved from that. But like making sure you're communicating how you're receiving everything is really important, because people aren't going to know how they're doing. So you need to like have an audit and explain all of that, basically.
Recognize the other person's efforts towards speaking your love language, affirms them, makes them feel validated and seen, and that can cause them to give you more of that. But if you never recognize it, eventually they feel like they're maybe just spinning their wheels. Right. And so recognizing is really important. But even saying things that are really tough, if the other person is obviously like open to hearing it, that's okay. Right. You don't there's no right or wrong thing, honestly. You could say like, I just don't feel as attracted to you since you did this, since you changed your hair color. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with it, and it's not something that they have to change, but now it's out on the table. And communication is key, because like I was saying, even the tiniest little chink in the army, a little erosion on the bridge, eventually you let it just wear, and that bridge just goes out, and now you literally have this whole broken communication that is much bigger than it could have been addressed in the beginning. So we're definitely running out of time here. So I feel like that is just something I really wanted to share, because from the outside perspective, you may not have known any of this happened. From the inside perspective, the way that I'm feeling about our relationship has changed in the best way possible since the van life. And I really wanted to do like this summation after the van life, what happened internally. And that's exactly what this is. And I just feel like by sharing, we really can help people I guess know us a bit better, but also hopefully it can help them. And so,
absolutely. I have gone through a lot of changes this year, positive changes. And I just think that it was what needed to be done, or I was just going to be stuck in the pit, is what I call it. But I think both of us have made changes in this relationship and just in life and stuff, and it's really helped us. Like, the van life really helped me get out of like my comfort zone, I guess you would say, and just like push me to do things I probably wouldn't have never done. And now I know that the next van trip, like I got it, like it's gonna be fine. I'm excited for it, and I've grown so much, and we've grown together as a couple, and it's just, I'm very grateful. So, and
the perspective shift has been huge for me. I at one point was saying in my head, like, I'm giving so much to Sammy, and maybe I would be better off single. I could like advance myself more. And I'm at this point now, this is a really beautiful thing I've been telling my friends lately, but my life is enhanced. It's better because Sammy's around.
Don't make me cry.
No. Don't cry. But Sammy has such a power to bring my friends closer to me and us, and she has like this powerful intuition where she'll realize like, hey, you need to reach out to your friend whoever, and when I do it, it's like that person receives it so deeply and needed it. And so all of my friendships have been strengthened by having Sammy around, and friendships that I would have never had, I'm now realizing are there because of the dynamic that me and Sammy have. And so it's giving me this really fresh, beautiful perspective of like, dude, one of my favorite things in the world is having such good connections with friends, and I have more of them that are higher quality because Sammy's around. So I also just wanted to like take a second to publicly put that out there and just like appreciate Sammy. Sammy's the best. This is such a great thing that's happened last year for us, and yeah, I just appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right, guys. So that brings us to the end of it. A long video. I just felt like everything needed to be said, and I didn't want to cut anything out.
Yeah.
If you guys aren't following Sammy already, she has a fantastic channel that talks about all this kind of stuff, but specifically for people who have mental health struggles, BPD and otherwise. She's really open about her experiences with it, and she's really open about giving advice that can really, really help. So if you or your partner has any of that kind of stuff, go check out Sammy's channel. Put the link to it in the description below. She's about to open up life coaching, which is really exciting.
Yes.
So yeah, check her out. She's kick-ass.
Thank you.
And yeah, we literally have 3 minutes. So give the video a thumbs up. Subscribe if you're not subscribed already. Let us know what you thought in the comments below. If you love us or if you hate us, let us know in the comments below.
Yeah.
And we will see you beautiful people in the very next video.
Bye, guys.
Bye.